You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com. Ladies and gentlemen, there are these things that makes it official. Welcome to 16 years, 2,400 episodes of the Chris Voss Show, where we just keep bringing you the most brilliant minds on earth, the great stories, the storytellers, people who share their journeys, their life things, and, of course, weave some of the best stories as well. Today, we have an amazing young lady on the show. We're going to be talking to her about her new book that comes to shelves May 13th, 2023. It is entitled Where You Once Belong, a novel. It's written by Lorna Graham, and we're going to get into it with her, find out what's inside her hot new novel. She was born in the San Francisco Bay Area and graduated from Barnard College. She has written for Good Morning America, Dateline NBC. She also wrote a short film, A Timeless Call, honoring Americans, military veterans, that was directed by Steven Spielberg, and she lives in Greenwich Village. Is it Greenwich or Greenwich?
Greenwich. Don't say the W.
So. It's been one of those days. She had a book called The Ghost of Greenwich Village, which was her first novel. Welcome to the show, Lorna. How are you?
Thank you so much, Chris, for having me. I'm great.
Thanks for coming. We're wonderful to have you as well. Give us your .coms. Where do you want people to find you on the interwebs?
LornaGraham.com is my author site, and I'm at a very village gal on X. But I'm a bad girl because I know I'm supposed to be on Instagram and TikTok and Book Talk, and I'm afraid I have not joined those platforms yet. But I'm getting a lot of polite pressure from friends and PR people that I should really do that.
Do that. Yeah. What do you have, like a life or something?
I am a late and cranky adapter to new things. Put it that way.
I
still use cash.
Oh, do you really?
I still use cash. I mean, not all the time. I use my card, but yeah, I'm a little slow on that kind of stuff. I guess I'm very happy with the way things are. So when something new comes along, it takes me a while to decide if it's worth it.
Aren't you wonderful? A woman who's not on social media. You know, it seems like everybody in there and it has to be half naked and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm half naked on there. No, I'm just kidding. No.
The bottom half.
If you search for that on Instagram, there's something wrong with you people. We do a callback joke on the show over these years about how I have an OnlyFans, and there's people that actually go look, and it's God, it's a joke, people, and who wants to see that anyway? At least with me.
I'm sure somebody would.
No, there's nobody. Like you'd have to claw your eyes out and reach your brain after that. Anyway, I don't know what we're talking about, but tell us 30,000 overview. What's inside your new book, Where You Once Belonged?
The big picture is it's about a journalist. Her name's Everly Page. She is the executive producer of a very successful, decorated primetime news magazine show, kind of like Dateline, where I work. So I know that environment very well. And she's a very good journalist. She cares passionately about journalism, but she also wants to get in her career. And to do that, she makes some not so great choices. And then she goes to her 20th college reunion and encounters what appears to be her college-aged, idealistic baby journalist self. And that, as you can imagine, rocks her world. And as they say in television, this changes everything.
They're going to do that Dateline thing? Is there murder?
That's a great question. People sort of think because I'm from Dateline, this is going to be a murder mystery. I'll say it's a mystery, but it's not a dead body mystery.
Darn it.
Yeah. But you can tune into Dayline on Friday nights and you will get that.
Anyway, I love that dude. Anyway, this has been in the works for a while. What made you want to write this novel, and is it connected to your previous book?
Great question. It's similar to my first book in that it's about a woman in New York City in journalism. My first heroine of The Ghost of Greenwich Village, Eve Weldon, she worked at a show like Good Morning America. And it was very much based on my time at Good Morning America, where the writers did pre-interviews the day before with the guests. And then we created Q&A sheets for them to do the live interviews the next morning. That was a fantastic experience professionally for me. I interviewed a lot of authors, people like Pat Conroy and Amy Tan and Stephen King, and they all inspired me to give this a try. So I have to shout out to them and to Good Morning America. This book is based more on Primetime Magazine, as I said, on my experience at Dateline NBC. But the thing that inspired it was not something that happened in the news world. There was a movie in the late 90s, I think, called Living Out Loud. I don't know if you ever saw it. It's with Holly Hunter and Danny DeVito and Queen Latifah.
Just that lineup sounds funny. And
I know, fun. Right? Like these people together.
Yeah.
And Holly Hunter has just been dumped by her husband for a younger model. She's feeling very unloved and unsexy. And Queen Latifah takes her to this sort of underground club. It's all women. And she gives her some kind of pill. They don't tell you what it is. Might be ecstasy. And Holly Hunter's character kind of goes through the looking glass, and all the lights in the club change, and all the women start dancing in formation, like a chorus line or something. And you can see that she's starting to feel herself like, oh yeah, I feel good about myself. And someone taps her on the shoulder. She turns around, and it's her teenage self. And they have this moment of just looking at each other. I get chills when I think about it. And she remembers the bold young woman she was as a teenager. And that kind of seals the deal for her to change things around in her life. And I thought, a lot of times when we think about or do a thought exercise, what if I met my younger self? I think a lot of times when we do that, we think, what would I say to them? Because they're young and insecure, and maybe I just put my arms around them and tell them everything's going to be all right. But what I loved about that scene in the movie, and what I wanted to do with my book, is flip that on its head and see what the older person learns from the younger person. Who did you used to be? What the idealism, the finding yourself that you do in your teens and early 20s. If you saw that person again, what might you learn from them? Because it's not always the older teaching the younger. I think we can learn a lot from young people that we know in our lives, but also this idea of what would the young me think of me now? And is that something I want to pay attention to? It's really about getting back in touch with your essential self.
Yeah. I don't know what would I do if I met my previous self? I'd be, quit making all those mistakes, stupid. Anyway, grow the fuck up.
I think you have a novel in you about that.
Yeah. I'd probably be more like, want to trade places? This exactly. End part sucks, but you know, I can't feel my legs.
Ditch those aches and pains. Yeah.
My back hurts. How's your back doing? No, it's funny. I often, when I, there was a point in my life where I would thought if I ever went back and talked to myself, I would tell myself, hey, it's going to be okay, man. It's all going to work out. All the stupid shit you're doing right now is going to work out. I built a lot of businesses, and you went through those dark ages, and you were young and stuff. But it's funny to think about that. I met a gal pal that I used to have in high school that I knew as a friend. She used to cut my hair, and we were good friends. I think I had kind of a crush on her back in the day, she said. But she remembers how I was back there then, and that was high school, so 40 years ago, 35 years ago, something like that. I'm so old, the Alzheimer's kicking in. And so I took her to lunch to meet up with her, and I was so curious I'm like, tell me who that kid was. And when I'd written my book, I'd written a lot of stuff, and I'd gone through my old writings back at that time. And I was just shocked at how smart that kid was back then, and how maybe I'm dumber than he was. He wrote some smart shit.
I love that.
And so I got to sit down with her, and I think I was starting to annoy her. I didn't know her. She's wonderful, but I started to kind of bug her because I kept asking, "Can you tell me what I was like back then?"
Yeah.
And it was kind of interesting, kind of mind journey to go on.
Absolutely. I think that, that's a great suggestion. Getting together with old friends.
Yeah.
And of course, you're going to reminisce about old times, which is wonderful, but ask like more direct questions, like you said. how did you see me back then? What were my strengths? What were my weaknesses? What was I about? I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. She says you were as dumb as you were now. So I think that's what she said. So with this novel, it sounds like you're kind of working through your resume and you're just kind of hitting all the places you worked. What's next? Did you work anyplace else that we can anticipate the next book to come from?
I've been in TV news pretty much since college, and I've done a bunch of documentaries, as you know. I've worked with people like Steven Spielberg. Sometimes I think, there's something to that.
He's next on the docket then.
I mean, he's incredibly inspirational to work with someone like that and everything you learn. So that would be kind of interesting. I'm also I haven't done this, but I always think if I hadn't become a TV news person, I would have liked to go into diplomacy. I think diplomacy is fascinating. It keeps the world on its axis, but it's something we don't really understand. How does that world work? So that would be different for me. That would be writing what I don't know. But I think that's a thought exercise in itself. I mean, you interview a lot of authors, and I know a lot of them are nonfiction, so they tend to be experts on what they're writing about, as they should be. But I'm kind of curious to see what I might learn by challenging myself with an environment that I don't know firsthand.
Yeah.
And I've already done some interviews about it. So
have you really? So you're thinking about getting into diplomacy?
Yeah.
We need all the help we can get right now in 2025. So how do you feel? You wrote for news and this for all these years. Were you interested? Did you find during this time that you were writing for novels, maybe making short stories, or had ideas for them? Or when did you reach the point where you're like, I think I want to write something else?
It was a long, slow process. What I love about TV news is the collaboration. I like being around people. I like being in a newsroom. I like sitting with an editor in an edit bay and creating something beautiful together with my script and her editing. I love all that. But collaboration means you don't always get your way. You have to kill your darlings. You have to,
or kill your editor. Or the producer.
I haven't tried that yet, but
there's still time.
The day's young, but
don't do that, folks. We're not endorsing that.
No,
lawyers made me say that.
No, I work on a show about murder, but we don't
murder.
Go there. Murder. Yeah. Keith Morrison. What was I telling you?
Sorry, I threw you off with the whole segue, didn't I? We were talking
how did I decide to write novels? Yeah. So the other thing about television, which is tricky, is that you're always against the clock. So at Dateline, I write the open to the show. There's a colleague of mine. There's two of us writers. We write the opens to the show, which hopefully intrigue you and get you, to say, I got to watch this show. We have about a minute, 25 seconds to do that. And sometimes the show itself is 2 hours. So I'm trying to distill a 2-hour show into a minute 25.
Yeah.
And this is just a constant thing of cutting. And honestly, it's a great process. You usually do come out with a very strong piece with that rigorous editing. But I thought, what if I could just write as long as I needed to tell my story? So I started thinking about books, but like a lot of authors, I thought, who am I to write a book? Who am I to write a novel? But then something made me, the feeling got strong enough that I joined a workshop at the New School here in New York City. And it was called Beginning the Novel. And there were like, 10 of us. And then it spun off and became a private workshop. But you would turn in a chapter, everyone would have a week to read it, and then we would get together and discuss. And I loved those discussions. Being, as you probably know, being a writer, you're alone a lot, writing a novel. Weeks, months, years, you're alone. Then when you're selling your novel, if you're lucky enough to be published, it's very public. It's like this, which is a completely different experience. What I loved about the workshop, it was, as Goldilocks would say, just right. It wasn't being alone in the room. It was being with other people, but it wasn't quite being public facing and promoting yourself. It was just learning from each other. So the first chapter I turned in, I don't think I slept the whole week leading up to that class, waiting to see what people would think. And the teacher was lovely. And she always started our sessions with, what are the strengths of this piece? And so I was like, please, I hope it's something nice that somebody says, because she had teed it up for a compliment. And I got a parade of compliments. And I thought, wait a minute, could I really do this? And then, of course, the critique part got underway. And I was like, oh my God, I have a lot to learn here. Yeah. But just that boost of confidence where people were like, no, this is good. I would read a book by you. That was But it was a long
Awesome.
process. It was a years long process to go from even thinking of it to thinking, yeah, I should try it.
I mean,
Yeah.
writing, telling stories, I don't know all the technical terms, framing it, developing
Yeah.
characters,
Yes. Yes.
that's a whole,
Outlining.
it's like a
Hmm.
muscle. You have to, it's like comedy or anything else. You constantly have to work at it and do it. And so you kind of already had that sort of with your experience. You
Yeah.
just had to learn to, I think, I'd love to write novels, but we have a lot of novelists like yourself on the show, and you guys have this weird thing sometimes where they come to you or different ways
Yes.
that you're inspired, and
Yes.
the only inspiration I get is from like 7 of my other personalities, and the one that says kill, kill, kill all the time. The judge says I can't use anymore. I get my sixth ankle bracelet off next week, or is it 5?
Nice.
We try and change the number on the callback joke on that, so that people wonder. But it's that kind of the muscle. Like for me,
Yeah.
it was joining a 1 hour a day writing accountability group that really
Great.
helped. And
Yes.
you're right, that whole thing. But yeah, there's times when you're writing alone, and I swear to God, there was a couple times I called up my friends and I go, I'm not sure when I'm writing, but I've been writing for a day, and I'm pretty sure if I go to sleep, wake up tomorrow, it'll say all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. I think I've gone full fucking Shining here.
Yeah. Red rum.
Yeah, I'm just, I was losing it. And they're like, maybe you should take a break there. But yeah, you're writing alone, and you kind of have this vision, and you kind of have this hope that you're going to fly it out there, and the world's going to be like, this is really cool. We'll buy this.
Oh.
But you never know, the world could just be like,
It's such a long shot. It really is. And a lot of luck, will your book just land, because you might write it for 5 years, and then there's a couple, you got to find an agent, which can take a long time. That your agent has to find a publishing house. My first book was traditionally published. It was Random House. This book is being published by She Writes Press, which is an independent press. Two different experiences for me as an author, but it all takes time. So you have no idea, is my book going to land in the zeitgeisty moment? I mean, I happen to think writing about journalism and truth is very timely right now. At least I'm hoping other people agree. But you cannot plan any of that. And I've known writers who say, I've heard that paranormal young adult is hot right now, so that's what I'm going to do. And I think, man, I don't know about that, because it's going to take so long that you have to have a real passion for the story you're telling, because, and you kind of alluded to it, your characters start to become so real that they start driving the bus. So you think, look, I outlined all this, and in chapter 18, my main character does X. And then when you get there, your character's telling you, I would never do that. Don't you know me by now? I wouldn't handle it that way. And you have to listen to your character. One way I likened it was, I know you're typing on a computer generally when you're writing a book, but some people write longhand. If you're writing longhand, there's the part of you that's pushing the pen across the page. Here's the story I want to tell. But I feel like there's also someone on the other side pulling the pen across the page. Your character, your subconscious, whatever you want to call it. There are two forces at work.
It sounds like a Ouija board.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And a couple of times I would get annoyed with my characters. No, I need you to do this. But I could feel in my heart, it's not what they would have done. And the last thing you want to do is create a character that people don't believe in, who's just doing things for the story. So that's been a very interesting part of it too.
People often say that about me. I'm a character they don't believe in. He's too good to be true to me in real life. He's funny on the show, but he must be awful in person. And they usually find that because I smell bad and don't bathe often. I'm just
maybe they think you're just so amazing that you must be AI at this point.
Pretty much. Yeah, that would be funny. That'd be funny. I came across an AI customer service call the other day, and it actually fooled me. But I was having what they call uncanny valley during it, because I was like, is this AI? And it kept interrupting me while I was telling him what the problem was and saying the same thing. And about the second time, I was like, what's going on? But it was really good. It fooled me. Did you write it in pen like you mentioned, or did you type it?
No, I typed it. It's just that whole pen thing is an analogy.
Okay.
But so for typing, I would say there's part of you is pressing the keys, and somebody's underneath pulling the keys and having, there's some ballast there.
We used to do that with Ouija boards. back in the day. If
Yeah.
it ever says something like Satan or kill or anything like that, just run.
That's that sixth character of yours, right?
Yeah. We once set up in an unfinished basement of my friend's parents' house. We put up Kiss solo albums on the walls, and it was just frames. And then we punched little red lights through them. And then we brought it, and my friend had an electronic switch because his dad was an electrician. Yeah. And so we turned in the lights, brought the Ouija board, and some unsuspecting people in. And then during the Ouija board, he reached back and hit the lights and turned them on, and everyone shit their pants.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know about that. I know about the keys moving on their own. That's a good
one. It's funny too, because when I was a kid, I went to sleepovers and we did the whole levitation thing. We did the Ouija board thing. As an adult, I was never really interested in supernatural and ghost stories. And yet both my books, my first book was about a young woman who lives with the ghost of a Beat Generation writer, like a Jack Kerouac type of person. Very cranky, never finished his greatest works, wants her to take dictation of them. And she's, dude, I got to go to Good Morning America and write this stuff. And he's yelling at her like, you're supposed to be an artist. You live in the Village. And she's, no one can afford to live in Greenwich Village writing avant-garde short stories. I have to go to work. So there was a ghost, was like the second major character in that book. In this book, there isn't a ghost, but in order for my character to encounter her college age self, obviously there has to be a little magic from somewhere. And so what I went with this time, I set my fictional college in upstate New York, which was a big part, which was the center of the Iroquois Confederacy. There are like 6 Indian nations that made up the Iroquois Confederacy. And I thought, wouldn't it be interesting to have some Native American influence in this book? And so I did a lot of, research into, just some of their traditions. And I made a lot of stuff up. I am not saying that this is authentically Native American, but the book also delves into a little corner of American history I think most people don't know about, which is, who the suffragists were, right? They were the ones fighting for women to get the right to vote. And in the 1840s, they had a huge convention in Seneca Falls, New York. But what a lot of people don't know is those white women were inspired by Native American women who lived in a much more egalitarian society than the white women did. Wow. The Native American women were the ones, they were like this council of mothers, matriarchs, and they were the ones who chose the male chieftain. And if they thought, and if they thought he was doing a bad job or getting too big for his britches, they could fire him.
Wow.
And in many tribes, it was the women who decided if they went to war or not, stuff like that. So the white women were like, my husband says that women are less than men because that's how God made it. But then I look at these women and they're equal to men. I wonder if my husband's wrong about that. And that really galvanized them to go and fight for the right to vote and everything else. So that was kind of a twofer. I got a little Native American magic in there, but also some real history. Yeah. And I think, as I said, I think most people don't know about it.
That would be interesting if there was a way that we could all just go back and hang out with the younger selves and shoot shit and be like, hey, man, how's it going, eh? Yeah. I'm your older self. But that might really flip the crap out of anybody that's on the other side. I don't know when I was 14 if I would have walked in the room, this old man that I am, looking all haggard. I don't know if that would be incentive to move forward. I'm going to end up like that. Oh, hell no.
That's kind of what happens. In my book, the main character's younger self is not very happy with the choices her later self makes. But the wonderful thing is the elder version, when she walks out of there, thinks differently about the world and the choices she's making. So
interesting.
It's a very pivot. That's the climax. That's the pivotal moment.
I mean, maybe it's a novel, but it's kind of interesting reflection, maybe on an exercise of, what would I tell my younger self? What would I meet my younger self? And who would come maybe away with the most impressions from it?
Yeah.
Right.
Two-way street.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think I'd terrify my younger self. It'd just be like, but I mean, He would look at me and be like, okay, I'm not going to drink all that Mountain Dew that made you fat and all those fatty foods, and I'm going to go to the gym instead of what you
But
did.
wouldn't he be thrilled with the Top 1% podcast and getting to talk to all these, as you say, thought leaders, visionaries? I mean, what a career. I think he would be thrilled with that part.
No, because they didn't have podcasts back then.
But, kids are, I think.
You'd be like, what's a podcast? Why is this old man in my room? Mom, pedo. Why is this guy in here?
Yeah. No, I think, kids are like, their minds are more open. I think they'd be like, cool, amazing that you can do something like, I don't know if you're literally in your home, but that you can do this kind of thing from your home is a great advancement. And I just think it's just drawing so many people together and helping us do dives into lives that we would never know about. I just think it's
Here's an idea
fantastic.
for your third book. You could
Okay.
go the other way. You could have the younger person goes and finds the older person.
Yeah.
Wait,
Yep.
Isn't it kind of the same? I don't know. Maybe there's a
Well, but it's in my book, it's you go back, like the chapters sort of alternate. So you're with the young woman when she's in college. So you know who she is in college. And then you see what she's becoming as an adult. And then the two storylines literally cross.
That was the other question I had lined up for you. How does that dual storyline work? And was it hard to put together, and hard to map it out? I mean, it's difficult to write from beginning to end, but
yeah,
how was that in trying to lay that out and tell the story from that aspect?
it was tricky. I thought because I was going to attempt this back and forth that I should outline heavily. And then I did that 2 or 3 times. And then I learned I'm not an outliner. I think they call it, you're an outliner or you're a pantser. Have you heard that term?
A pantser?
Yeah. You write by the seat of your pants. You are a pantser author. Yeah. So I tried to be an outline girl, but I turned out to be a pantser girl. And I just could feel like, okay, so I'm starting with my character in her 40s. But then when I go back in time, the next chapter should be something that kind of echoes what's going on in the present day life in the past. And how was she dealing with it then? And just, you just want to be very surgical, I think, in this kind of storytelling. You don't want, or really any novel, you don't want anything extraneous, right? It's everything has to earn its place for the reader's time. So that was tricky to decide. In every flashback, when we go back to her younger self, it has to do more than one thing at once, right? Like you want to see a bit of her relationship with her fellow students. She goes to work at the school paper. She's a very idealistic, passionate young journalist. What kinds of stories is she working on? And what does that say about her? What's her relationship like with her editor? Because that's kind of her first boss. So I was really trying to be strategic about what I was showing in both storylines, sometimes to show how this is the same person. Look at these echoes. And sometimes to show, wow, she's changed a lot since what she used to be.
So give that contrast there.
Yes. So that when they meet, hopefully you get a bit of a chill down your spine thinking, what is this going to be like? What are these two going to say to each other, given everything you know from both of their perspectives?
I actually got that chill and my hair stood up on my arm.
Under your hat?
Well, in my arms. Yeah.
Okay.
I was just kind of, whoa, that worked. Yeah, I can see how that would just come together nicely. But I imagine it's a lot of work. We've had a few authors that have done that with their books where every chapter is kind of, Tarantino movie, basically.
Yeah.
Between the front and the back and all those sort of things. And that's a challenge.
Oh, it is. And I think authors deal with it differently. Like I know authors, especially when they're doing something like this, they print out their whole manuscript and they put it on the floor. Like you need a big floor. This is hard to do in New York City. We all have small apartments, but they put it all out on the floor and then physically swap chapters. What if I put this here? It's something that's hard to do on a computer, but visually, this is what I've heard. I haven't done it this way, but they will actually just pick up, here's chapter 6. I'm moving it to chapter 20, and chapter 20 is going to be where chapter 3 was, or whatever it is. It's a lot to keep track of. I know some people do it with bulletin boards and like chapter 1, we meet the character here. Chapter 5, she gets fired from her job here, and then switch around like the little index cards to do it. For me, it's just a gut thing. I just keep writing and feeling where I am in the moment and what needs to happen next, which doesn't mean there isn't tons of revising, because as everybody knows, writing is revising.
I did that once trying to write a book, and unfortunately, when I sent the manuscript in, they said the first two words that the book begins with is "the end." See what I did there?
I love that.
Yeah, the jokes. What's the this is the mean trick that people play on you, and you just launched the book today. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you so much.
You got it. It's all this work that's gone into it, and it's payday. And you know what they do? Yeah. I'm going to do the meanest thing to you. What's next? What's the next book about? And you're like, I just got this one ready to publish.
Yeah, I just crossed the finish line of the marathon, and you're asking me when's my next race?
What's next, buddy? What's next? What's next?
As I said, if writing another novel, might take me to the world of diplomacy, because I'm really interested in it. I'm kind of interested in the idea of a teenager who falls into it accidentally, because I don't know why, but that just interests me. But another thing I have going on, and I don't want to jinx it, so I'm knocking on wood right now, is my first novel, The Ghost of Greenwich Village, that I was telling you about, has been optioned by none other than Steven Van Zandt of Bruce Springsteen, E Street Band, and Sopranos.
You're gonna make it a song?
Fame. I would love it. Oh my God, I would love it. If he did the music for it, it would be incredible. But his wife read the book years ago, and she loved it and gave it to him, and they're both really into it. And so this option, we just signed a deal a few weeks ago. And I know, you can't get all your hopes up because options often don't go anywhere. But if it goes forward, what I'm really excited about, besides seeing my book come to a small screen or a big screen, any screen, iPod screen, I don't care. But what excites me is being in the collaborative environment again. Working with them on how are we going to develop this, and world building and all that stuff. Like I said, collaborative work is my favorite kind. So this would give me the chance to be still with my book, but also with people.
Maybe you can get Bruce to write a song about it, eh?
Can you imagine?
The Ghost of Greenwich. I don't know. I can't.
That would be amazing.
I can't do Bruce.
From your microphone to God's ears.
Bruce Springsteen hears is what the hell's going on.
What am I getting dragged into? I've never heard of this girl.
It's set in Greenwich. I write about the country or something, like he writes about Iowa.
He's a Jersey boy, so he's right across the river.
That's true. He should do that then.
Yeah.
There might be some intercontinental competition between those two cities, isn't there? There's kind of
I think there's a friendly rivalry between New York and New Jersey. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
It's good to keep it healthy. Yeah. We'll look forward to future works. Do you anticipate maybe making The Ghost of Greenwich Village or your other new book, maybe carrying on the characters beyond that?
It's always tempting because you fall in love with these characters and you see them go on this journey.
Yeah.
I think I've left both of them where they needed to be. They both, how some endings are really beginnings. So I think I left them both at a beginning, but it's a beginning. I personally feel I like to imagine rather than show everyone here's what happened next. But like I said, I do love the characters, so it's tempting to find something else to do with them, for sure.
It's kind of interesting. We have a lot of novelists on the show like yourself that they have these different threads of their book continuums, I guess you call it. I don't know.
Yeah.
And the characters just kind of come to them and they're like, I'm going to write the book for this character again. Yeah. And that's going to be in the series. We have the Tom Clancy people and they just.
Oh, yeah.
That thing's been, the Jack Ryan,
Juggernaut. Yeah.
There's so many lines and different things. So it's been wonderful. Give people your final thoughts as we go out to pitch to pick up the book and .coms and all that good stuff.
Oh, yeah. Come to my website, lornagraham.com. There's a bio. I also blog about life in Greenwich Village, which is a very storied, romantic neighborhood. They shot a lot of Sex in the City around here. And actually, Sarah Jessica Parker lives literally right across the street from me. She's like 100 feet that way, right across the street. So you'll get my take on Greenwich Village. You'll learn about my books and, some of the nice reviews and praise I was lucky enough to get. And I know I'm behind the curve on Instagram and all that. So I will try to get on that. But I was happy this book was coming out in May, is that I think it is a beach read. You can take it on vacation, but it's also a book club book. So I put it like book club on a beach blanket. You know, go with some friends, read it together, and discuss it. There's a discussion guide in the back with some thought-provoking, questions. And that's what I would love to see. I would love to see it just kind of out there in the world this summer and something that people are talking about. I know that's every author's dream, but it's mine also.
Yeah. If I ever met my younger self, I want to be like, what was that? Where's that thing with the Michael J. Fox where they go back in time?
Oh, Back to the Future.
It's like Back to the Future, and he's hiding from himself so that he doesn't, I don't know, warp the time.
Right. Base time continuum.
Yeah. Everybody knows that, right? Yeah. You can't do that. Can't do that. Plus, I think his mom kind of hits on him, which is kind of weird. So,
exactly.
Younger version.
So, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question. I'm going to really be thinking about this later. When I visit my mother up in Utah, it's where I grew up as a child. And so driving through the city is just like walking through my life 35 to 40 years ago.
Yes.
The Del Taco is still there that we used to go to when I was 16. And I sit there and I go, I should have bought this Del Taco. All my business, money in my business have come and gone, especially with the 2008 crisis. And I'm like, I should just bought this Del Taco like 25 years ago because it's still profitable and still running clearly.
Winning the lottery. Yeah.
You know, and here I am, the old man still there. Thank you very much, Lorna, for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. And congratulations on the new book. Thank
you, Chris, so much for having me. I am an honored to be in your company and all of the authors and visionaries and thinkers that you've had on. I can't even believe I'm in that number. So thank you.
Of course you are. I mean, you've spent so many years writing great stuff, and we'll look forward to seeing what you have next and coming on the show.
Much.
Thank you. Order it, folks, wherever fine books are sold. It's out today, May 3rd, 2025, unless you're watching this on YouTube 10 years from now, like you do.
May 13th.
Did I say?
You said May 3rd.
Oh, May 13th. There's a camera in front of the stupid screen. It's my bad. But yes, May 13th. I've been corrected. It has just come out. Where You Once Belonged, a novel by Lorna Graham. Pick it up wherever fine books are sold. Thanks, Monis, for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss. Chris Voss won the TikTok and all those crazy ass places on the internet that Lorna's not on, but we're trying to get her over there. Thanks for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time. Great show.